Hey everyone, it's Tim Dang.
This is Amy Hill.
My name is Dana Lee.
My name is June Angela.
I hope you will join me on Sunday, May 31st.
On Sunday, May 31st.
May 31st, Sunday.
5 p.m.
5 p.m.
At 5 p.m. Pacific Time at East West Players Virtual
Visionary Awards Gala fundraiser.
I'll be there. You be there too.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to East West Wednesdays. We're so glad you could join us. We have a packed show and week for you, so I want to first let you know about some special events that are going on, and then we're going to launch into things. What you just saw was a little bit of a teaser of our first virtual gala, which is this Sunday, May 31st at 5 p.m. Again, that is Sunday, May 31st at 5 p.m. You can see that here on our Facebook page, as well as on our YouTube page, or just go to eastwestplayers.org for information. It is going to be a fun event, and there are many, many, many guests, surprise guests that I think you will enjoy. We also, on Saturday, are hosting with Seed and Spark and a number of other organizations, table reads of the pilots for Kim's Convenience and Fresh Off the Boat. And you can join us for that, and for donations of $10 and above, that you can also join a special talkback afterwards. Again, information on our webpage, as well as on our Facebook page and Instagram for that. All right, well now we have a pretty fun East West Wednesdays planned for you. Next, we have a short little play written by two of our writers in our writers group, Lisa Dring and Lina Patel. And so we're going to go ahead and turn things over to them in a minute. And our main event for this East West Wednesdays is a reunion of the team from David Henry Hwang's FOB, the 1997 production here at East West Players. It is a fun conversation and chat. So we're so glad you're going to join us for that. Thank you all again for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Hi. Oh, I'm so sorry I'm late. I just got out of my meditation class, and you get so into it. I was like deep in the Zen realm, so I'm super sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks. I'm finding this like inner stillness that I haven't before. Like I'm able to witness myself because I think so many thoughts, and working out has just gotten like so pleasurable to me. Like just my body in movement.
Oh yeah, we bought Zoe an exercise bar. She's only 11, but obsessed with having a six-pack.
Oh no, she's doing that whole
No, it's a good thing in a good way. Like she wants to like kick ass.
Wait, hold on. You know who's kicking ass right now? Cher. Have you seen her Instagram? She's just like living her best life. I was talking about it with Libby when we went to the pool the other day, and she was saying that Cher actually didn't want to be a singer at first. She wanted to be
Wait. Did you say that you and Libby, you saw Libby?
Yeah.
You went to the
we go to my sister's pool.
You swim? I mean, I know things are opening up, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's small. It's just like me and Liv and, a few people, but. What about you? How's Zoe? How's that going? Does she have like a friend bubble or?
Oh my God, she so wants to. I don't know how to like open up. I have to talk to her friends' parents, and then we have to make sure. But wait, how do you know like that Liv is like safe and like?
No, we have like a chart. See?
Yeah, so like I'm here, and there's Liv and Sherry, and we have our dogs of various capacities, and then everybody else is just right here.
Oh, you know what? And I've also done some really cool stuff. Look at how big my lemons are getting.
Wow.
Holy cow, right?
So like I tried to Zoom you twice last night?
Yeah. I was doing cookie drop-offs for friends,
Oh. Mm-hmm. That's so nice of you.
Look, my cactus is blooming.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I did not know my house could get this clean.
It's easy when you don't have like 1,000 Legos everywhere.
I got a CSA.
Just in time for summer.
I learned how to read tarot, and I'm donating the money to Indigenous activists.
Oh, nice. I'm sorting Zoe's superheroes.
My book club just got through Man Search for Meaning.
You have a book club?
Mm-hmm. 2. I gave Ponyo an asymmetrical haircut.
Oh my God.
Also,
What?
surfing.
You went surfing?
Mm-hmm.
We made slime.
Oh, that's cute. Wait, hold on. Can I sidebar you? I got a motorcycle.
What?
Look, I just texted you the photo. Cute, huh?
Oh my God, she's purple.
Purple.
So cool.
I mean, yes. Oh yeah. Sent you another pic. Mm-hmm.
Wait, you're getting a sidecar for it?
Yeah, for Ponyo.
Oh my God, Zoe could totally write in it.
Oh, sure.
Right? I
Sure,
mean,
like maybe
if we're in
after, in a few, when we get the vaccine. Mm-hmm.
You were doing quarantine so much better than I am.
Oh God, no, absolutely no, but yes.
Welcome everyone again to another East-West Wednesdays. My name is Sanaye Desai. I'm the producing artistic director of East-West Players, and we're so glad you could join us again. We have a really special show for you this week. We have a reunion of the cast of David Henry Hwang's FOB. We'll see if John ends up playing David by the end of this. And we thank you all again for joining us. So I'm going to turn things over to Andy Lowe, our director of production. Take it away, Andy.
Thanks. So we're talking about FOB, Fresh Off the Boat. This is a play that was developed in 1979 at Stanford's Asian American Theater Project and premiered at the Public Theater in New York in 1980. It was the play that introduced the world to playwright David Henry Hwang and became the flagship play that ushered in what is called the second wave of Asian American playwrights. The New York production earned David Henry Hwang an Obie Award and saw subsequent productions around the country at Pan Asian Rep, Asian American Theater Company, and of course, right here at East West Players, once in 1980 and again in 1997, just before the company moved into the David Henry Hwang Theater in Little Tokyo. My name's Andy Lowe. I'm the director of production and casting for East West Players, and today we're going to look back at the history of the play and a very special revival production in 1996. So I am joined by the playwright, David Henry Hwang. Say hello. Also, Tim Dang, who is the former artistic director of East West Players, was the director of the 1997 production. Lisa Hashimoto Stone, who is a theatrical set designer, who is the chair at East LA College and was a set designer for East West Players' 1997 revival. Reggie Lee, who is known for roles in NBC's Grimm and CBS's All Rise, but performed as Steve, the FOB, in 1997's production. And John Cho, known for the Harold and Kumar films, also as Sulu in Star Trek, 2018 Searching, and the upcoming Cowboy Bebop live-action series. And he was Dale in 1997, back in the day. So, welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is fun.
So, just to start with, I'd just like to start with David. How did you set upon writing this play? It's 1979. There are only a couple Asian American writers out there. How did you start upon this play?
Yeah, well, I started writing plays as an undergraduate, just in my spare time. And the summer between my junior and senior year in college, I was home in LA, which was my hometown, and saw an ad in the Times that said, "Study playwriting with Sam Shepard." So I clipped this thing and sent it in, and there were only 2 of us that applied to be students, so we both got in. And I got to study with Sam and the amazing teacher, Maria Irene Fornez. And there we began writing more from our subconscious, and I started writing FOB. And I was going to be in the Asian American theme dorm, Hunipro, which is now called Okada, at Stanford the coming year. So I kept working on this play with the intention of presenting it in the dorm, the lounge of our dorm in the spring of '79, which we did. And that was the beginning of the play.
And so a lot of these, you say you were writing from your subconscious. A lot of these themes that the play gets into, like what was your entry point for a lot of these ideas of intergenerational conflict, assimilation, the classical versus the contemporary ideas?
Yeah, so I mean, it started because I was writing about this kind of weird double date that I went on with my cousin Grace and this guy who she was dating named Steve, who just come from Hong Kong. And then I wasn't really sure what to do with that. And then I read Maxine Hong Kingston's The Woman Warrior, and that juxtaposition of kind of a hyper-realistic view of growing up Chinese American in Stockton with a sort of mythological framework gave me my sense of how to approach it. And I was an intern at East West Players, I think also that same summer. And I got to see John Lone and Mako work on Frank Chin's play G-Pop, which had the Guangun character. And then I interpolated the Fondulan character from Maxine's book, and then that all became FOB.
Cool. I'm going to, before we move forward, I'm just going to bring a little clip. So we have, we asked an actress who works with us, Jennifer Zhang, who is to perform the Fondulan monologue for us today.
Fondulan sits and waits. She learns to be still while the emperors, the dynasties, the foreign lands flow past, unaware of her slender form, thinking it a tree in the woods, a statue to a goddess long abandoned by her people. But Fondulan, the woman warrior, is not ashamed. She knows that the one who can exist without movement, while the ages pass, is the one to whom no victory can be denied. It is training to wait. And Fondulan, the woman warrior, must train, for she is no goddess, but girl who takes her father's place in battle. No goddess, but woman, warrior woman, and ghost.
Yeah, so this was this was always for me a really kind of fascinating thing about this play, kind of juxtaposing this classical element, mythological element with this very contemporary 1970s story, and using this kind of analogy of warriors for the immigrant experience. Did you, want to talk about how you kind of came to that analogy, David?
I think it's just, I was sort of interested even then, right? We knew that there's this rivalry, this conflict between Frank Chin and Maxine Hong Kingston. So the idea of kind of interpolating what was then Maxine's sort of signature avatar and Frank's from G-Pop felt like a way to kind of, I wanted to set those two warriors into battle. And then because I was also writing about immigration, as I went through, as I was sort of doing the first draft and going through it, the notion of warrior as a metaphor for immigration also started to emerge. And then there was just a lot of, that was how it sort of, everything started to come together.
Yeah. For Tim and Reggie, do you guys, what is your first impression having first heard about this play? Or I know for me, back in the 80s and 90s, honestly, for me, it was the only play or the only Asian American anything other than a woman warrior that I could find in any library in San Diego. And for me, it was fantastic. It was like kind of the one thing I could latch on to as a work of like kind of Asian American literature, or would speak to this experience. I mean, what was your guys' kind of first impressions coming upon this play?
Tim?
Well,
at least for me, FOB in 1980 was actually the first play I ever saw at East West Players. So it was very nice to see this entire ensemble of not only Asian American performers, but Asian American staff and crew all around. And I felt like, okay, this could be my home. I was referred to East West Players by my senior advisor when I was attending USC, and he said that life is going to be really hard for you as a performer of color, in 1980, and you should go check out East West Players. And so FOB was the first show I ever saw there, and of course the rest is history. I mean, I can't believe it's been 40 years that I've been at East West, or I've had a history with East West Players. So obviously it did have an impact. I found my home, my artistic home, and it certainly made an impact. And to meet the cast members like John Lone, and I believe it was Kim Yumiko and Keone Young there, they welcomed me, a newcomer. I was an immigrant to East West Players, and it was great. It was great. I found my place there.
It's fascinating. First of all, David, it's great hearing all this stuff that you have to say. I wish we would have heard 23 years ago before we started rehearsals. It's great stuff. But this is like a deep dive into identity. I think when we all did it, I mean, seriously, it's one of the first plays I did for East West Players. It's like the second play I did for East West Players. Digging into that material, that was some major material in terms of identity. So, and a lot of it made a lot of things come to the surface for me about, I'm Filipino, most Filipino Chinese, but mostly Filipino. So coming from the Philippines and coming here, being raised in Ohio versus being raised in Los Angeles, it was a deep dive. So I appreciated that. Never in my entire life have I ever worked on something that was so much about identity for an Asian American as I had with this particular play. And it was fascinating and scary and amazing all at the same time.
John or Lisa, do you have any memories of your first kind of encounter with the play?
I think when I think back, I think I might have read it first in class in college, but I'm not sure, just because my brain cells are weak. But what I think about is that it coincided with a time in my life when I was really discovering what being an Asian American was. And I think, it was historically a relatively new term. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it might have been in the 60s that it gained widespread use. But it wasn't a particularly old idea. And I had grown up, I was born a Korean, not an Asian American or an Asian, you know what I mean? And then you come to the States and then everyone's looking at you and sort of putting anyone that looks like you in the same bucket. And so then as a political reaction, you come up with this other term, Asian American. And in my personal life, I was, as a teenager into my 20s, I think that's when I started identifying as an Asian American, partly because it seemed like a way to individuate myself from my parents, you know what I'm saying? And say, well, they're Korean, I grew up Korean, but I declare myself Asian American. And it seemed to be a way to both honor my parents and the culture that I came from, and also make a statement about my belonging in this country. And then, on top of that, I think I was really learning a lot about other Asian cultures at the time as a young man, especially then you get thrown into East West Players and I'm understanding the histories of different cultures. And also sort of, there were no, to be honest, there were very few Koreans at East West Players at the time. And that was also kind of, there was I had to get familiar with being a minority within a minority, you know? And so all these issues of identity, because identity is just, it's a piece of paper you can fold forever, you know what I mean? And it was very alive for me, the play at that time. It was very much touched every corner of my life.
Thank you. Lisa?
Yeah, so for me, it was probably my second or third project with East West, and I was just starting to understand. I grew up in New York. My dad is Japanese, my mom was Russian and Irish, and we grew up in a very sort of white Italian Irish neighborhood, and people would say, "Oh, are you Chinese?" And I'm like, "No," because I was Japanese. I'd say, "No." And it was a long period of all through grammar school and high school and even college, where I was just sort of rejecting. Like I did not identify as an Asian American. It wasn't until I moved to California, I went to grad school, I started working with East West, and we're doing this play, FOB, and I'm thinking, and I get chills even now thinking about it, because I was just starting to come to terms with my identity and thinking, wow, these people say they're Asian and they're trying to figure out what kind of Asian. Are they half Asian? Are they real Asian? Are they cultural Asian? Are they, and you know, what are we? And it was a real turning point for me, just discovering, I guess, my sense of pride and history, and that there is a whole collective of Asian history and of Asian American experience that I started digging into. And, you know, it's obviously now it's become what I am, but I would say that was the start of becoming myself, like becoming who, you know, I authentically am. So thanks, Dave.
It's interesting.
The other thing that, the other thing that was very unusual about that time, I felt like, and remains unusual, is that it was 3 young characters. And I think, you know, even to this day, Asian American writers have a hard time. I think it's, we elevate our ancestors' experiences in our writing so much, you know what I mean? So we're constantly writing about generations previous and our parents' generation and the mythology. And I think the play set itself apart immediately by having 3 youthful characters that were dealing with all that. So it was, it's very unusual. I still feel like it's very hard for Asian American writers today, when tasked with come up with a film idea, a play idea about the Asian American experience that doesn't really involve essentially telling their parents' experience. It's very hard for us psychologically to say, my story, whatever my upbringing was, as boring as it may seem, if I grew up in Riverside, California, you know, and went to public schools all my life, is there a story there? And it's hard to admit to ourselves that there is a story there, that is worthwhile as well. So, so even young Asian American writers tend to essentially write their parents over and over again, and so this play really set itself apart.
I think it's also such a great piece for you know, John and I back then, it's like we were very close to those ages of those characters. Back then we were close to those ages. So the discovery, like we were still discovering ourselves as Asian Americans, as actors, as any of that stuff. So going into this play, it's something, it was almost like a tool, you know, it made you couldn't hide at all. You had to go in and kind of discover and feel, and every night was different, you know, the same but different. And I think any actor that is fortunate enough to do this play, any Asian American actor is going to come out of it a completely different person, you know, in terms of identity and things that you question for yourself. And like John said, it's like, yeah, you relate. People write so much about their ancestors. Granted, there is a whole mythological aspect to this, and even that was part of the discovery, you know, where is that in me? Where is this in me? Or where is this in this character? But coming out of it, man, I was a whole different person than going in, especially being Asian American. So
it's fascinating, you know, because it's still, for many people, it's still many people's first Asian American play, right? I mean, I still have people coming in when we do auditions here who are coming in with these same monologues, whether it was, you know, or they're being assigned scenes from the play in their classes. You know, it's still kind of still breaking ground. And I remember, like, you know, back in the 90s and reading a lot of new works. And, you know, of course, every Asian American playwright's like first play is in some way an identity or an assimilation play of them trying to come to terms with a lot of these ideas. And I always remember things like, oh yeah, okay, so it's another take on FOB, but in the 90s, or another, you know.
I mean, I think, you know, I had the advantage of actually writing it when I was the age of those characters. And I'm thrilled, but actually always a little bit astounded that it's had as long a life as it has, given that it's, you know, something I wrote to be done in my college dorm. But I do think, you know, what John says, there even to this day, it's hard to find a new Asian American works that feature characters of this age, and I think it's one of the reasons for the longevity of it.
I have a question for you because, you know, because at USC we have Asian American theater classes, and they cover FOB. So if there was another David Henry Hwang play that you would like us to study in the university system, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know. You know, people should study what they want to study. I'm perfectly happy that people still do FOB, even though there's like references to the Bee Gees and John Travolta. Okay, everybody still knows John Travolta. Do people still know the Bee Gees? I guess. And a reference to a Fiat 19, which is a car nobody knows anymore. Anyway, I don't know. I think people read Yellowface a fair amount. People read M. Butterfly a fair amount. So those tend to get read also.
Right.
I want to share a couple of images here. So this is kind of goes back talking about some of that. So
yeah. So obviously that's kind of old. It's an old document there. But we did an Asian American art series at the Storm Junipero, which is now called Okada. And I sort of curated it. And as you see, we had like, Curtis Choi came in and talked about film, and the Asian American Theater Company, and Janice Mercatani, and we did the sort of final event was this new Asian American play, which was FOB.
David, my start in acting also was similar to that kind of dorm experience, in that I stumbled into a student production of a play called Eye of the Coconut. And we did that play in the basement of the theater department. And we put up flyers, and I remember just being shocked because I went to Berkeley, and they had so many Asian American students. We had so many Asian American students. It seemed like they all showed up for this play. They were so starved for representation. And I think it remains one of the primary thrills of my life to see that something was speaking to people like me. You know, it was really remarkable. And I think it's still, you know, that thrill is unmatched, that primary thrill.
Yeah, and Andy, you just a moment ago had this sort of picture up of the original dorm production, which was 3 students, David Pading, Hope Nakamura, and Lauren Fong. And yeah, and I directed it, and we did it in the lounge of the dorm.
Can we get that picture back up?
Yeah, sure.
Andy?
What a great man. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, so great.
And so, this is
Those
1979.
costumes.
I'm
That's
sorry?
great.
And this is 1979?
Yes, this was March of 79, and then, wait, yeah, March of 70, yeah, March of 79, then it opened in New York in summer of 80.
And other friends were involved in this, like Roger Tang, right, was the lighting designer on this? And
Yep. Roger Tang, who runs the Asian American Theater Review website.
Yes.
Roger was designed the lights. We had this thing called the undergraduate lighting project, where you could like basically rent a grid, and so we had like a few instruments.
That's awesome.
So David, how did you get a play from your dorm room to New York?
Oh, a lot of fortunate things happened. It got picked up by something called the O'Neill Playwrights Conference, which happens in Waterford, Connecticut every year. I think Andy might have a picture of me at the O'Neill. And then actually, so that's baby me, along with Robert Allen Ackerman, who directed it at the O'Neill.
Wow.
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 And then actually, I always feel like I got to the Public Theater in New York partly because of community. Oh, and this is the reading at the O'Neill with Calvin Jung, Ginny Yang, and Ernie Abuba.
Ginny Yang, who went on to write Paper Angels, correct?
No, that's a different This Ginny Yang was in Do the Right Thing, however.
Oh no way.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I always feel that it got to the Public Theater because of community activism, because there was a production at the Public around this time where a Caucasian actor was cast in an Asian role. This led to probably the first yellow-face protest in New York theater history outside the Public Theater, and Joe Papp, the founder, who was still running it at that time, invited the protesters in and hired one of them onto his staff with a brief to find plays for Asian actors. And eventually, in June of 1980, this production of FOB, and there you see Calvin Jung, Willie Corpus, and a very young Tai Ma. This production, directed by Mako, opened at the Public along with a Wakako Yamauchi play, The Piano Lesson. And that was how we got to the Public. And there's John Lone as Steve, and again, Ginny Yang and Calvin Jung.
Didn't Tai Ma do our Peking opera choreography for this?
No, I think it was a woman by the name of.
Oh yeah, someone else. But Tai came in somewhere and helped with the authenticity of the movements or something. Didn't he? At some point, I feel like.
Probably, yeah. Probably.
I feel like that's right. I feel like you're right, Reggie.
Yeah, I think so. Somewhere in there. That's cool to see Tai in that picture. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? He's so young. I mean, we all are, but that's what happens. Years go by, but you know, it's good to be still around.
So let's jump ahead to 1997 here, Tim. So it's 1997. It's about 18 years after the original production, in 1980. What brought about the choice to revive the production in the 90s?
Well, you know, we were right at that transition period where East-West was moving from the 99-seat theater to the mid-sized theater where East-West is now. And so we were supposed to actually move in, I think, 1997, but because of the El Nino storms, it delayed us 1 year. And so what we had to do is that we had to create another season at East West Players. I think the supposed last play at East West, at the Santa Monica East West, was supposed to be I Remember Mappa, the solo show by Alec Mappa. So that was supposed to have been the last show. But then we had to add another season to it. And there were a number of shows that we wanted to do. And I think this is when we came to the John Cho season. I think John Cho was in like 3 that we did, you know, because it included like A Taste of Kona Coffee and, you know, FOB. And for FOB, it was just, I thought it was just time for another generation to see David's play. You know, because the last time it was done was 1980. So we're talking about 16, 17 years later. And that, you know, it would also give the opportunity for our Asian American artists to do FOB. And so that was, you know, partly the reason. And then I believe all the shows that we added on to that season were all about the immigrant experience. I believe the other show was Woman from the Other Side of the World.
Oh yeah, Linda Feigal Hall.
Linda Feigal Hall. Yeah, so those were the 3 shows that we added. But and the reason why I wanted to direct FOB is because the 1980s, just in terms of music, was like my era. It's almost like I know everything from the disco era. So yeah, so the Bee Gees was the attraction to do FOB. So yeah.
so Lisa, you were tasked with designing this show, which almost, I mean, approaching it as a period piece almost, right? Which is ironic for a very contemporary young play. Kind of what was your approach? What were kind of specific things that you really wanted to focus on in your design?
Yeah, you know, at the time, I guess this is 1997, and I was like a couple years out of grad school, and I was designing, I want to say like 20 plays a year. And I have no photographs. I mean, it was just one after the other. And I'm having a very hard time remembering the details of this play. I remember a Chinese restaurant. I remember wanting to convey something, you know, very poetic, a little bit beyond realism. But that's as far as my memory takes me.
I do remember.
Do you have any production skills?
You know, I do remember, because I actually did get to see the production. I drove up from San Diego to see it. And I remember there were at least like 2 kabuki drop moments that you used either for projections for the opening monologue. You also had disco dancers, right, Tim? That were discoing in shadow, or
so we had like 2 Kuroko type figures that was also dancing behind a scrim for the top of the show. So it was kind of like a pre-show kind of moment.
And I just remember that setting a feeling, right? I mean,
yeah. I was hoping someone had some pictures.
You know, I remember the boxes. Lisa, you had like 3 boxes. It was all about those boxes that Tim had me. I don't know. At one point I was taking my clothes off behind them. At another point I was jumping up on top of. Remember the boxes that we had to move? There were like 3 boxes. Tim's like, I don't remember a thing. But I just remember those. You know, because Tim likes to play. You know, the transitions are very important for Tim Dang. So the transitions have to go very smoothly, and we rehearse the transition. But the transitions of the boxes, those boxes served every purpose, Lisa, for everything. It was a really cool set. I remember it. Very cool set.
I remember actually, Reggie, you had this great move that I ended up stealing when I directed the show a few years later, which was like your first entrance. You come in and you pronounce yourself as Guanggung, god of warriors, writers, and poets, and you immediately grab a chair, slide it over, and throw one leg up on it. Like, you know, you're climbing a mountain. and it became this whole thing of this tug of war between you and the Grace character.
That must have been the wonderful Tim Dang direction, because I don't remember that at all.
I don't remember that at all.
I remember that.
It's hysterical. It was this great pose. I think you also had a moment where the first time he goes into the FOB character, you like blacked out the stage, put a spotlight on him, and he like bowed it with a sound effect of a gong, and then immediately he was transformed.
Wow, Andy.
Wow.
I know, crazy.
Oh.
Oh, okay. You. Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys remember from kind of that rehearsal process and kind of exploring some of those transitions, some of those bits of magic as they kind of jump in and out of the reality of the play?
Andy, it seems like you remember more than anyone just from having driven up from San Diego to see it like once.
I mean, I also, so I have been in 2 productions. I have performed once as Dale, once as Steve.
Wow.
Hill Kong directed me in it down in San Diego. And then I directed the other production that was in 2000 when we opened our space down in San Diego down there. So it was kind of a thing where, how much this play is part of my origin story as well, right? In terms of both my discovering this as a teenager and in my 20s and starting my theater career, and also kind of going through all of my kind of identity things. So I mean, these are iconic moments and iconic, it's an iconic play to me as well.
Right. I mean, I remember after rehearsal, we would always go and have drinks and just talk about, there was this bar on Hillhurst called The Rustic. I don't even know if it's still there. But yeah, I mean, after
I don't know either.
So close by.
I believe it's Ye Rustic Inn.
Oh yes, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
Ye Rustic Inn.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say that it's really, looking back on everything we all had to do for the time that we were on stage. I'm exhausted just thinking about it, because I was like, this is a play for the young for sure. Because there's no way. I mean, that's like, you just start and you don't even stop. You get on stage and you just go, and just all the different variations of Steve, along with the Peking opera stuff, along with, I think I had to tumble in it at some point, and I was just like, wow, my God, I'm exhausted. But it was amazing. Listen,
let me say that
one of the
Reggie.
Did we lose him?
Did he freeze?
I think we lost Reggie for a second.
Oh no, I'm here. Wait, what? Who's talking?
May I say something?
Yes, of course.
My primary memory is really a couple things come to mind. One is that's the first time I had done real text work like that. And I remember we started off rehearsal at a table and going through the script and asking our questions and going through, could this be ironic? Could this be, what's the intention here? Is it to seduce? Is it to push away, and all this stuff? And then there was historical context too. So there was an academic element. Tim obviously had seen prior productions and was able to kind of shed some light on author's intent and that sort of thing. And, I was a very young actor, very green. And it sort of set the template for me in terms of how to approach text. The other thing that I really remember is Reggie, this is your play. And I was so impressed by this young actor who combined this naturalism, in the prose, but had this formal training, could move, could dance, could sing, and was just a very curious tiger. I was really impressed, and obviously remain a fan to this day. But that production is, I think, like for me, I feel like I could have been replaced by 30 other actors, and then it would have been fine. But for me, I was like, this is the guy. This is, I don't know where the play is without Reggie.
Oh, God. Well, okay, I'm going to throw it right back at you because seriously, it was, there's no way you could have been replaced by anybody. What pushed me as a, I came from the world of, I don't know, I started as an actor and then I went into musical theater, did a whole bunch of Miss Saigons and whatever. But coming in and playing opposite John, you had no, you immediately went into reality of the moment. And I remember him telling me after one show, one night, he was like, that was different for me than yesterday. And, in theater, it's you do 8 shows a week. And it's just like, I wish that started me on, it's going to be different every night. And that's kind of the fun part of it. John was so real that it afforded me to be able to kind of play off of that and play with that. And, I had never worked with an actor like that before, specifically. So there's no way you could have been replaced by anyone. That show to me, aside from our friendship really grew during that time. And it was wonderful, all the way around, these 2 young actors doing this thing and going, like I said, it's a deep dive, but I think, the respect for each other's work is part of it. And I wish we could do this again now, knowing all we know, but this is a time to be cherished, really. I cherish it so much.
Let's take a look back. So Jenny Yee, who was your 3rd castmate, was unable to join us today, but she did share with us. But here we have the program, which you can kind of make out. Looks like is that you, John?
That's John.
That's a Photoshop, right?
Right. Yeah. So graphics was done by Christopher Kumuro, who did graphics for a long time and also did East West Players graphics.
And here we have the whole team from the program. Your director's notes, Tim. Look at Tim's photo.
Tim.
Yeah, the word Chin was in this.
I was younger then.
The only thing missing from that headshot is a cigarette.
Oh, I haven't.
Also see Jason Fong was one of your Kurugos here. Some other familiar names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All right. That's right.
Wow.
Was Jason my understudy also?
Yes.
Do you recall who your understudy was?
Ariel Felix.
Wait.
No, wait. Theodore. Who did Theodore understudy?
Dale.
Theodore understudied you. Yeah.
Yes.
And we have here a review from Monologue.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And we can see the small photo, which will blow up here.
Wow.
With the stand, this is the one some hot scene, right? With the standoff with the hot sauce.
We can't do that now because of social distancing, though.
That's true.
Oh, wow.
And this is a photo you shared, right?
I did. I found that somewhere in a box.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't know if this was opening night. You can see there's, I don't know. I think Ty Ma's there. John's off to the left there, I think. Tim, I think you're off to the right somewhere.
Yep.
Crazy.
And that's Ty in the right there in the brown jacket?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yep. And
awesome.
David, that's your mom, right? And
Yeah.
Wow.
And my dad, in my father's standing next to Ty.
yeah.
And yeah, he's a character in many of my shows.
Right. And
Wait, Dave.
I remember
the woman.
One of these nights, we went up to what was that Thai restaurant, Tim, up the street?
Sampon restaurant. Yes.
Oh yeah.
And
That was good.
Sampon
Sampon Thai.
is it still open?
Yeah, when David came to see the show, we all went up afterwards to Sampon. I think, David, you probably came on a Sunday matinee because we had dinner there and it was still daytime. So, yeah. But I just wanted to point out that the woman next to David's mother in the brown jacket, that is the choreographer Lu Ran Shu.
Oh.
Choreographer. Wow. Wasn't that fun?
Crazy. Wait, David, you came. David, did you come like the last night? I remember you coming either somewhere in there, and then we all went out to eat.
Yeah, I mean, Tim was just talking about us going to the Thai place. I can't remember at what point in the run I came, because I was, living in New York as I do now. So
yeah,
but it was such a fun production, and I was so moved really to see it after all those years, and done not only in the same space, the same thing, we're still on Santa Monica Boulevard, but with this whole new generation that I felt this is the same way that, the original production gave birth to Ty and John Lone, and I thought, oh, this cast is so amazing, and this production is so full of love and understanding that, this is going to happen again. And sure enough.
Yeah. And aren't we proud of the both of you?
Oh, looking back at all that makes me want to smoke a cigarette. This is what I remember. There was a direction. There's a part in the play where I have to like take a puff of a cigarette and blow it in John's face. And Tim said, Reggie, that doesn't look very real. So I would go out on breaks and practice, and it led to 10 years of smoking after that. I don't regret a bit of that at all. At all.
Reggie, I remember that. Just those little things, those little moments.
So fun.
Yeah, and I remember telling Lisa to make sure that everything of this set was like nailed down or something, because Reggie was going to be, jumping and stepping up on everything, and Reggie had the big, Hwang Kong staff, like 5-foot staff. And Jenny had the double swords for Fondulan, so everyone had to like really steer clear and be careful about everything. But those are the things that I remember.
Tim,
say what?
Tim, did you ever consider? Was the idea to make it a period piece? There from the very beginning, or did you ever consider just setting it in 1997?
No, it was always a thought of making it a period piece, just because I knew that period so well, the 80s and the 80s and all that. And so, I think I wanted to keep it that way. But, I guess when you look at it now and, would we do this show again, for even the next generation of theater goers and Asian American artists, definitely. We would have to get this past the pandemic, or we would do something, but who knows? Or maybe a director would find a way to do it, with social distancing or on Zoom. Who knows?
I think part of the issue in terms of trying to contemporize FOB is that so much of the humor of the play comes from the cultural references of the period. So you would have to kind of either say that these are people contemporarily who are really into the 80s, or I mean 70s really, or else sort of contemporize some of the references, which I guess could be done. But I feel like so much of the stuff that I do is like I'm in real time as I'm writing the thing, discovering things in the moment. And so in this show, you have a very young Dale who starts out with one attitude about, being Asian American, his heritage as it relates to FOBs. And then at the end, when he does that final FOB monologue, which was mocking at the beginning, and at the end feels kind of like, not that he's come to a conclusion, but that he's started to be open to trying to figure out what all this stuff means. That was, who I was when I was writing the play. And I think that process of kind of denying your ethnicity, but discovering it at a certain point of your life is probably still relevant now, which is one of the, why the play still gets it done.
Let's take a look actually really quick. We have another actor, Hao Feng, who recorded one of Dale's monologues for us.
I'm much better now. I go out now, lots. I mean, I can anyways, sometimes I don't ask anyone, so I don't go out, but I could. Yeah, much better now. I have friends now, lots. They drive Porsche Carreras. Well, one does. He has a house up in the Hollywood Hills where I can stand and look down on the lights of LA. Well, I guess I haven't really been there yet, but I could easily go. I just have to ask, right? Yeah. Parents, they don't know nothing about the world, about watching Benson at the Roxy, or ordering hors d'oeuvres at Scandia's, or just downshifting onto the Ventura Freeway at midnight. They're yellow ghosts. And then they've tried to cage me up with Chineseness, when all the time we were in America. So I've had to work real hard. Real hard. To be myself. To not be Chinese, yellow, slant, gook. To just be a human being like everyone else. I've paid my dues. And that's why I'm much better now. I'm making it, I'm making it in America.
Cool. I will say, part of the reason I asked Tim about whether it was always a period piece is, just sort of the idea of identity today is, I think there is this, kind of idea that we're post-racial and all this stuff, and it's still like such a thing we're still grappling with, and we're looking at a bunch of coronavirus-related hate crimes happening right now, and the political climate is. I was just reading this introduction to this edition that you wrote in 1989, and you write, though America has often advertised itself as such, its actual history has often been one of hypocrisy and prejudice. Though Mr. Bush and Reagan may preach otherwise, the greatness of America lies not in a return to the past. In both my life and work, I will continue to grapple with an American dream for the future. These are, ideas that are not of those aren't period ideas, they're present tense.
Thanks.
Well, and that said, like I said, I still see this, right? Like, actually, Howe had auditioned for us with this monologue at one point, and I remember, and this is, talking about it being, a period piece, but still being relevant. People are still choosing it and finding bits of relevance to it. They might not know what Scandia's was. They might not know,
Does anyone on this call know what Scandia's was? It was like a Swedish restaurant on Sunset Boulevard. I don't know what's there now, but anyway, I was like listening to this. I was like, do people know what the Roxy is anymore? I mean, the Roxy sounds fairly generic. So.
I mean, that's one of the things that, like, anytime like I'm working with someone on this, it's like I have to, okay, do you know who George Benson was? Okay, listen to some George Benson, and the Roxy is like this cool club, like. But what do you think? I mean, in terms of it's 2020 now. What is the place? What do you all feel in terms of what a production today work? What do you think people take from the play now as people are still studying it in school programs? I mean, what do you kind of hope for it?
Gosh, well, I mean, I really appreciate, John, what you read, and I forgot that I wrote that back in the 90s. But certainly all the things that John just mentioned about why we're in sort of, we're really in a pretty tough time, a tough moment for Asian Americans. And in that respect, I think all the themes remain pretty relevant. In terms of doing a production now, it would just be fun to see. I mean, there's a certain number of if we put aside the period references for a moment, I think that the show could still work. And in fact, I still see it being done at colleges. But then the only thing nowadays is people are getting confused. They're going to think it's the TV show.
Yeah, actually, I think there was actually a production only a couple years ago done in New Zealand, right? And their Asian diaspora theater movement is still very young. So they're still discovering a lot of these plays from before that are new to them still to this day. But well, thank you all for joining us. I just want to go around robin one more time. Any kind of last thoughts, last memories, or anything to sign us off with?
It's so great seeing everyone. Oh my gosh.
It is great seeing everybody.
Wow. It's been a while. And it may be a longer while until we all are able to get together in the same room too.
I will say that I would like to see a production. I mean, I think I would love to see a production of this. There's a certain amount of emotional wokeness, if you will, with the younger crowd now. I see it in my nieces, how just conscientious they are about everything and how much they're willing to share versus, I think, generationally, what we were available to share on a personal level and on a societal level. So to see it anew, I vote for that. I'm going to end with that. And it was great to see everybody.
Lisa or John?
I'll second it. That would be a really interesting. It would be really interesting to see it today. Partially, I feel like, Reggie and I were probably closer to the original cast in terms of kind of our worldview and what we thought of identity than an actor in 2020 would be to our 1997 selves. So I think there's been an accelerated evolution in that sense from 1997 to 2020. And it might be an interesting experiment to see how performances change, no matter how small, and what those attitudinal differences might look like on a stage. And that's sort of the cool thing with theater, that you can do these productions and observe the differences and put them in different time frames, and also saying, well done, everybody. You guys looking like 1997. Everybody, nice going. Well preserved.
Lisa?
Yeah, so I would just say that I think that the piece is so well written with the poetry and the prose and the way that it just moves with so much fluidity, and it will resonate. I mean, cultural identity, it's always something that will resonate with human beings. So it's definitely worth doing again, and I would love to see if I could reimagine it, and maybe I wouldn't forget this time. Visually.
And David, any last thoughts?
Just that it's been fantastic to get to revisit this with all of you, and that it sort of forced me to go and dig out a lot of old stuff, which was fun to find also. And this is a play that I wrote, which has a special place in my heart because it was my first one to be done professionally. And also, it was a play that I wrote before I knew how to write a play. So there's all sorts of stuff, like leaps that it makes and like weird places that it goes that I don't know how to do that anymore. I mean, I can do other things, but that particular type of subconsciousness, again, so sort of the impulsiveness of it, is very much, I think, a young artist, a young Asian American, discovering my voice as a writer and who I was as an Asian American. And it's thrilling that it still has life.
Well, thank you again for all of you joining us today for this discussion and this kind of trip down memory lane. And also keep an eye out for May 31st, when we'll be hosting our online gala fundraiser right here on this page right here. So come on back. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Stay safe, everybody. Stay well. Stay
Bye,
safe.
you guys. Bye, thanks.
Good seeing everybody.